This routine by Fitness Blender can be used as a post-abdominal surgery workout or a postnatal workout. In this workout, we're going to be going through one round of 10 different exercises for a total of 18 minutes. You're not going to need any equipment except for an optional exercise mat, and you don't need a warm-up as this routine is low enough impact that you can go right into it. These exercises may not be appropriate for everyone, so please contact your healthcare provider first to make sure that these exercises are going to be appropriate for you. With that said, let's go and get started with our first exercise, the pelvic tilt. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. So start by taking a nice deep breath in, arching that back up, then exhaling down, rolling those hips back in, alternating back and forth between an inhale, arching that back up, and exhale, pulling those hips in. Now don't worry about trying to get a really nice contraction on those abdominal muscles. You only want to pull it in as close as is comfortable. You only want to contract those abdominal muscles as much as is comfortable. You can always start increasing the amount of effort you put into it later on, but make sure you only do as much as you can control, as much as is comfortable for you to begin with. If you want to try to get a little bit more of a calorie burn out of this, a little bit more of a toning effect out of this exercise without increasing the amount of effort you put into those abdominal muscles, then focus on trying to contract those other muscle groups throughout your body. So focus on that quadricep, the front of your thigh, that hamstring, the back of your thigh, contracting them really nice and tight, but not actually moving that leg. Contract that calf and the front of that shin, working against each other, but don't actually move that foot. Same thing with those arms. Contract that bicep and tricep, but don't actually bend that elbow. Same thing with those forearms. You can go through all kinds of different muscle groups through your body, get them nice and tight without actually having to move anything, without actually putting any undue stress on any incision points or any other kind of traumatized tissue. Just a couple more repetitions. Just one more. Arch that back up really nice and high. Deep breath in. Exhale back down, roll those hips in. And let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next one. We're going to be doing a pelvic tilt plus a lift. Now, if you have a yoga block or a towel, you can use that between those knees for this one. Go ahead and get ready. And start it up. So squeezing that block with those knees, you're going to do that arch, that pelvic tilt. Arch that back up really nice and high, press that lower back down, and then lift those hips up just very slightly, then let those hips relax back down, and start that pelvic tilt over again. Just keep contracting on that block really nice and tight to engage those inner thighs. Also, just like with the last exercise, try to contract that quadricep, the top of that thigh, the hamstring, the back of that thigh, the calves, the bicep, tricep, your forearms, your upper back, your chest, all those muscle groups that aren't necessarily being used for this exercise. You can contract those, get them nice and tight, get a little bit more toning effect, and get a little bit more calorie burn out of it. Now just remember that this exercise should only be pushed as far as you can control, only as far as is comfortable for you. Remember, don't ever push to a point where you're feeling pain or discomfort of any kind. There's a very big difference between the pain that comes from a fatigued muscle and that comes from a muscle or tissue that's traumatized. So make sure you know the difference. Make sure that you're looking out to protect yourself. Now we're almost done, just a few more repetitions. Keep it going nice and slow under control, only pushing into that range of motion as much as is comfortable for you. Going through, checking, making sure you're contracting all those muscle groups that are okay, that aren't traumatized, getting those muscle groups to contract really nice and tight to get a little extra calorie burn out of it. All right, let's go ahead and let it relax. Let's move on to our next exercise where we're going to be doing a supported leg extension. Go ahead and get ready. And start up. Laying flat on your back, you're going to keep your right leg down on the ground. That left leg, you're going to extend out away from you and then pull that knee back in. You actually want to be pressing down on the ground with that right leg to stabilize those hips so those abdominal muscles don't actually have to do much of the work. You want all that work just coming from that hip flexor and that quadricep, the top of that thigh, to extend that leg out, and then slowly bring it right back in. Now you can easily increase or decrease the amount of tension you put on those abdominal muscles by either increasing or decreasing the amount of pressure you put in that right foot. The more pressure you push in that right foot, the less those abdominal muscles have to work. The less pressure you put in that right foot, or the more you actually lift that foot off the ground, the more those abdominal muscles are going to have to work. So start where you can, where it's comfortable for you, and you can always make it harder as you progress. Keep focusing on keeping that motion nice and controlled, slowly extending out, slowly drawing that knee back in. You want to bring it in only to as close as over top of that hip joint, no further in than that. Making sure you're doing a nice slow inhale as that leg comes in, exhaling as you extend that leg back out. We're almost done, just a few more repetitions. Draw that knee back in and let it relax. All right, let's go and switch sides. Same exact thing on the opposite leg. Go ahead and press that left leg down nice and firm against the ground. Bring that right leg up. Slowly extend it out and then draw that knee back in. Exhale that leg away and inhale nice and slow, pulling it back in. Now make sure you adjust the tension on those abdominal muscles to where it's comfortable for you by either pressing more firmly down against the ground with that foot or lifting up so it's either barely touching the ground or not touching at all if you want it really difficult. We're almost done, just 5 more repetitions, nice slow controlled motions. 3 left, keep those lungs open, inhale that leg in, exhale away. 2 more. And 1 left, draw that knee in, extend out nice and slow, draw it back, and let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and move on to that next exercise. We're going to be doing an outside thigh and an inside thigh leg lift, starting laying on your left side first. Go ahead and get ready. And begin. So laying on that left side, using that left hand to prop your head up or laying flat out on that left arm. That right hand's going to be in front of you to help control your balance. And that right leg, nice and slow, drop it down, barely touch the ground, and then pull it up as high as is comfortable for you. Nice and slow, back down, barely touch that ground again, and then right back up again. Just keep as much range of motion as you can, as much as you control, as much as is comfortable. Keeping that thigh nice and contracted, making sure that leg stays straight. Just a nice slow motion. Exhaling on the way up, inhaling slowly on the way back down. Just keep that motion going under control. We're almost done. 1 more. And let it relax. All right, we're going to switch to that inner thigh, so that left leg's going to go out straight. Bring that right leg back behind you, foot down against the ground. Squeeze that left leg up really nice and high. Again, as high as is comfortable, as high as you can control comfortably. Then slowly back down again, barely touch that ground, and back up. Just keep that motion going, nice and slow under control. Again, it's going to be an exhale, squeezing that leg up. Inhale as that leg drops back down to the ground. Keep those core muscles nice and tight as long as it's comfortable. Make sure all those other muscles through your legs are contracted. Those muscles through your arms are nice and contracted. Just a little extra tone out of it, a little extra calorie burn. And just a couple more repetitions. Just 1 more. Squeeze up nice and high, tight squeeze. And let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and switch sides. I'm going to flop you over so you're on your right side this time. Go ahead and extend that left leg out. We're going to be starting with that left leg, doing the outside thigh leg lifts. So nice and slow. Bring that left leg up. High squeeze at the very, very top of that range of motion, as high as you can control, as high as is comfortable. Then nice and slow back down, barely tap that toe to the ground, then right back up again. Remember, only move as much as you can, as much as is comfortable for you. Don't overdo that range of motion. We're almost done, just 2 more repetitions. Nice slow drop. Raise it up 1 more time, tight contraction at the top. And let it relax. All right, go into that inside thigh. So stretch that right leg out nice and straight. propping that left leg up back behind you. Squeeze that right leg up nice and high. Get a tight squeeze on the inside of that thigh. Remember again, limit that range of motion to what's comfortable for you. Nice and slow down as you inhale. Exhale, bring that leg back up. Remember, contract those abdominal muscles if you can, as long as it's comfortable. Contract all those other muscles through your chest, your upper back, those arms, that quadricep and hamstring and that thigh, those calves even, to get just a little extra calorie burn out of it and to get a little bit more toning out of it. Almost done, just 2 more repetitions. 1 more, tight squeeze up the top. And let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and move on to that next exercise. We're going to be doing a single limb bird dog. So 1 limb at a time. This is usually done with 1 arm and 1 leg, the opposite arm and leg, but we're going to do it with just 1 at a time. Go ahead and get ready. And start up. So you start with that left hand first, bring it up, straight out, nice straight line with the torso. Same thing with that right arm. Hold it for about a 2-second count. Same thing with that left leg, straight back out behind you. You want to try to get a nice straight line from your shoulder all the way out to that ankle. Nice and slow, switch it out. Let's start back over with that left arm, straight out. Same thing with that right hand. It's a short pause. Just whatever you do, make sure you're not holding your breath. When you bring those arms or legs up and pause for just a second, you're going to have a tendency you want to hold your breath and just pause there. Make sure that you're constantly breathing through that whole pause. You don't ever want to actually hold your breath in any one of these exercises. Now contract those abdominal muscles as much as is comfortable to make sure you're getting a nice straight line from shoulder to hip. You want to make sure that back stays as flat as possible. When you lift that leg up, it's going to want to dip on you a little bit. It's okay if it dips a tiny bit, but you don't want to let it go too far. Everything needs to be as straight as a board. Just keep going through that motion. Nice, slow, controlled extensions on all of those limbs. Keeping all the rest of those muscles that aren't being used nice and tight the entire time. And we are almost done. We just have 1 more repetition on each limb. Start with that left arm. Nice and slow up that right. Pause it. Breathing naturally. Last one on that left leg. And 1 more on that right. Extend it out, short pause. And let it relax. All right, let's go and move on to that next exercise, the external and internal leg rotations. Go ahead and get ready. And start them up. So with those feet flexed up towards you, pulling those toes up towards your shoulders, you're going to rotate those legs back and forth. Bring those feet out as wide to the sides as you can, and then pulling them in, going as pigeon-toed or pointing those toes towards each other as much as possible, and then back out again. Just keep rotating back and forth. You're going to feel this quite a bit up in that hip socket. You want to also contract your thigh and your hamstring, keeping that leg nice and straight. Just let that leg kind of roll on that heel back and forth. So you're going to want to start with those legs probably about shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit more. Just keep everything nice and contracted. You want to keep a neutral spine, so you don't want to press that lower back down. You actually want to have it up off that mat just a little bit. Contract all those core muscles, contract those arms, contract those legs. Make sure all those muscle groups are being used, even though they don't necessarily need to be. Again, keep in mind that you only want to contract those muscles and work that range of motion as far as is comfortable, as far as your body will tolerate. Now, everybody's going to be in a different place as far as where they are in recovery, so not everyone's going to have the same range of motion. Not everyone's going to be able to contract those muscles as solid as someone else. So make sure you're only going off of your own limitations and not trying to push yourself to someone else's standards. We're almost done. Just 2 more full rotations. Out and back in. 1 left. And let it relax. All right, let's go and move on to that next exercise. We're doing a modified bridge. Go ahead and get ready. And start up. Press into the heels of those feet. Bring those hips up. You want to get all the way up to about a straight line from your knee to your shoulder. No higher than that. If you can't quite go that high, that's perfectly fine. Just do the range of motion that you can control that's comfortable for you. Now, every single time you drop those hips back down, remember to let everything completely relax before you engage all those muscles again and bring those hips back up. Now this version is intended for those who have a pretty limited range of motion and have a pretty fair amount of discomfort when doing these motions. So make sure that you keep that range of motion limited. Now we're going to be moving up to a slightly harder version here in just a second. So if you need that limited range of motion, stay with this limited range of motion. Don't move up to this harder version. Alright, so let's go and move into that harder version if you can, if your muscles will allow. If you can get that range of motion to extend, you want to bring those hips up to at least a straight line with knee to shoulder. If you can, push them even harder than that. And when you drop those hips back down, you're actually going to keep a little bit of a hover. So only do this if it's comfortable for you to do. If you can't, then move it back down to that next easiest version, making sure you're letting those hips relax on the ground every single time and limiting that range of motion. And we're almost done, just 2 more repetitions. Slowly drop those hips back down. We got 1 left. Slowly bring those hips up nice and high. Squeeze them as high as is comfortable. Slowly back down and let them relax. All right, let's go and move on to that next exercise. Still laying flat on that back. We're going to be doing leg circles, 7 in each direction. Go ahead and get ready. And start them up. That left leg first, straight up above that hip. Go a nice small circle right above that hip joint, only about 12 inches across at its maximum. Just a nice slow, smooth motion. We're going to switch off in the other direction here in just a second. And pause, and switch back the opposite direction. So that same exact diameter, same exact position, same motion, just in the reverse direction. Just got a few more. And just 2 left. Last one, pause. And let that leg drop. All right, let's go ahead and switch over to the other side. Bring that right leg up, straight above that hip, same position. Moving again, nice fluid circle, about 12 inches across. Nice smooth motion, making sure you're not getting out of control. And just 2 more repetitions. And pause that leg, reverse the direction. Nice slow controlled motion, again about 12 inches across, just moving in the opposite direction. Try to keep that leg as straight as you can, that quadricep and that hamstring contracted, making sure that leg stays perfectly straight. Almost done. And let it relax. All right, let's go and get started with our last exercise of this routine. It's a supported partial curl. Go ahead and get ready. And start up. So bring that right hand behind your head, supporting the weight of that head. Nice and slow, you're going to crunch forward. Get as tight of a crunch as is comfortable for you. You might be able to get a really nice tight crunch. You might not be able to hardly do this at all. So just as much as is comfortable for you, then slowly let those shoulders drop back down, let that head drop back. Just keep it going, nice slow controlled motions, as tight as is comfortable for you, as much range of motion as is comfortable for you. The more support you give with that hand, the easier it's going to be for those abs, so adjust that as you need to. Alright, let's go ahead and switch those hands. Same exact motion on the opposite side. That left hand comes behind that head. Again, the more support you give with that hand, the easier it's going to be. The less support, the harder it's going to be. Just a nice, slow, controlled motion, squeezing it up. Remember, only contract as hard as is comfortable for you. You never want to go past that comfort zone. And just 2 repetitions left. So last one, squeeze it up and let it relax. All right, good job. This workout is complete. You just finished Fitness Splinter's postnatal, post-abdominal surgery workout.